one of my great criticisms of the left has always been that they're prepared to make excuses for
for bad behaviour.
For bad behaviour, and try and create a reason as to why that bad behaviour is occurring. That might even be true, but I don't automatically subscribe to the notion that that absolves a person of their responsibility for their actions. If it were true, based on my own childhood and experiences of my own childhood, I should be a drug-addled moron sitting in doing a life sentence by now. But that didn't happen. It turns out I'm actually I ended up being the Attorney General. I'm a barrister at law. I lecture in universities on labour economics. So the pathway that, if trauma is supposed to be the yardstick of that pathway, then I stand as a example as to why that's just simply not true.
Yeah, no, you did right. There are plenty of people that didn't necessarily have a fantastic upbringing, but that they're not all destitute and struggling in life.
And the easiest thing to do is blame, excuses, denial. They're the three easiest things that anyone can do to avoid personal responsibility. And I think in the political sphere, that is what is forgotten the most, is personal responsibility.
Yeah.
As a man, I've got a personal responsibility as a husband. As a father, I've got responsibility to make sure that I'm going out working, for setting a good example for my family, keeping them healthy, roof over the head. That these responsibilities are fundamental, that should be so far outside of government that as a community, what do we hold responsible? First and foremost, should be yourself. Your personal responsibilities are number one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, just to paint a picture, so I'm not talking through my hat, grew up in an alcoholic home, had my own issues with drug and alcohol problems when I was younger, sexually abused as a child. The fellow that abused me in the most intrusive ways as you can possibly imagine. The most reprehensible part of his conduct towards me was that he took me to what was called a beat, where he shared the wealth with other, and I was 13 at the time.
Wow.
And it was pretty ghastly. And yes, it had a profound effect. I went off the rails, and I got into some housebreaking, and I got arrested by the police. But at some point in my life, I came to the conclusion that pathway wasn't a reasonable pathway to take. Now, was it my fault? No. Am I embarrassed by it? No. Am I proud of it? No. It's just what it is. It's just how life goes. So on the basis of those personal experiences, I should be in a jail according to the left, and rather than making that my identity, I make it part of my experience. But my identity is somebody who says, I'm a responsible citizen, I'm a responsible adult, I'm a responsible husband, as you've just said, I'm a responsible father, and I think about my duties towards my employers, the people that pay my bills, and my responsibilities come at the same standard and strength as my rights. And so that they are balanced. I expect to be able to speak freely in a free country. And the only reason I talk about this is to demonstrate that not everybody's life is as squeaky clean as it may appear at first blush. But those people who have overcome trauma in their lives, whatever that trauma may be, go on to live better lives. If we constantly focus on a person's trauma, the only thing they're going to ultimately realise is that they've been traumatised.
Yeah, you're reinforcing it.
Yeah. We're saying that, but here's the thing. Try and move out of that space and form an opinion which is contrary to the left's worldview in relation to this sort of thing, and they will absolutely criticise you for not being as feeling and as caring as they are, particularly when it comes to dealing with the adult survivors of child sexual abuse. So if I sit there and say, look, I'm responsible for my emotions and reactions today. It's bloody nearly 50 years since nearly 50 years since this happened to me. I don't have a right anymore to say it's not my responsibility. Somewhere along that pathway, it became my duty to fix that. So I did. The guy went to jail for his crimes. I continue to be a successful member of the community, and I assist and occasionally assist the victims of child sexual crimes today to sue their perpetrators.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, thanks for sharing that with us. I didn't know that about yourself, but that's yeah, and I really appreciate it.
I think it's another great example, though. Like you've always been really open up front with your past and your history, and the left will always talk about lived experience, but they only want to listen to the lived experience that fits their narrative.
That's right.
So the fact that a conservative leader could be out there and have a trauma background, well, we need to cast them to the side and put all sort of dispersions to them. I think at one stage you came out in the media and spoke about the fact you, as a police officer, you rocked up to work drunk.
Yep.
Now that was an honest thing. That's what
That's right.
What's one criticism of politicians at the moment? The politicians aren't honest. You come out and you make a completely blunt and honest statement, and they try and crucify you for that.
Yeah, they did. They went after me a big time because I had said to the Parliament at one stage is that I had these issues, and we were talking about a matter was relevant to this sort of thing. And I said, look, I've had my own drug and alcohol problem, and it's been many, many years since I've drunk alcohol. But I admitted to that, and they went ballistic. There was this desire to drag me down because you aren't allowed to have lived experience and then do something about it. You've just got to have the lived experience and wallow in that place so that you can then be rescued without ever actually having the intention of rescuing you.
Mm-hmm.
They just want it. It then becomes, and if you understand the psychology of that, it's more about the carer in their mind's eye than the cared for.
Yeah.
If you want to get a result where people live a really good and healthy and happy life if they've been traumatized, then when they succeed, you should applaud. But no, that's often not the case.
Yeah, it's the opposite. It's literally, I'm going to put, while you're sharing a vulnerable moment, I'm going to put my foot on your head and bob you under. It is the opposite of what the empowerment should be. And, we're talking about responsibilities. The other half of responsibilities comes from your rights. So people have rights and they have responsibilities. You don't get your responsibilities without having, you don't get rights without having responsibilities. And your rights can never trump other people's rights. Humans have all sorts of rights that we need to respect. But the responsibility means that I can't use my rights to trump your rights or your rights. We have to go collectively together. And that's where the left really push these things. And it's not just, we look at your story, but to bring it into the modern times now, we have a look, and we spoke about this last week with Ben Hood on the podcast, that as soon as Peter Dutton announced Senator Little, and Senator Jacinta Price on the shadow cabinet, all of a sudden these are the Aboriginal voices that we shouldn't listen to, and they started attacking. The left media attacked shocking people like Karen Little, Senator Price, on the fact that they are sellouts to their community and they're just singing the conservative words because it's good for them politically. Well, you can't choose, again, which political voices you want to listen to. If you want an Aboriginal voice, you have to listen to all Aboriginal voices.
The danger with the whole thing is, yes, they can choose what voices they want to listen to because they're, as I said earlier, they're selected, they're not elected. So that's my biggest fear with it is who are you going to get in this voice?